Welcome back to Redeemer Lutheran Church for our final night of our Lenten journey to the Holy Land. I am Pastor Stacy Christensen. I serve here at Redeemer in the position of Director of Family Ministry. And tonight we continue with our readings from Matthew as we follow Jesus to Golgotha. A reading from Matthew 27, 32 to 44. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, Jesus did not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head they put a charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then two bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also along with the scribes and elders, were mocking Jesus, saying, "He saved others. He can't even save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now if he wants to. For he said, 'I am God's Son.'" The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. Here ends the reading. While I was in seminary, I visited one of the World War II concentration camps in Buchenwald, Germany. As I walked that path, and I listened to the stories, I can remember the weight of my steps as I made my way across that holy ground. Sometimes we are forced to take hard walks, ones that lead us to experiences that challenge our realities, or maybe change them completely forever. Paths that terrify us with each step we take. One of the things that I noticed with each of my experiences with these hard walks is that they are even harder when I'm asked to walk the path of someone else or walk the path with someone else. Today we are at the end of our Lenten journey as Jesus walks down the Jerusalem city streets, knowing that this path will lead to his death, each step getting him closer to that inevitable outcome. Jesus' path led him 2,000 steps down the crowded city streets on what we now know as the Via Dolorosa, where many Christian pilgrims still go to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. It is not a long path. Actually, it's just over 1/3 of a mile walk down those streets and through the city gate to Golgotha. But before we get to that hilltop, let's stand along these streets for just a moment and rest on the path that Jesus walked. For just this moment, let us be one of those who are lining the streets, watching as Jesus struggles to put one foot in front of the other. Can you see it? The walls along this city street starting to close in. And even these pictures, there are no crowds that are gathered. But can you still hear the noise? The voices echoing off the stone walls as they murmur about this man named Jesus, as they talk about what he has done, and as the crowds follow behind him as Jesus slowly moves through the streets. Then the crowd stops, and the soldiers reach forward and grab for someone. They pull Simon of Cyrene forward to carry Jesus' cross. There on that noisy, packed street, Simon is handed the cross. Not because he volunteered or it was the right thing to do, but because the soldiers were afraid that Jesus would die before he made it to Golgotha. After all, the whole point of the last few hours was for Jesus to be crucified, not for him to die on some city street. So Simon went along beside him, carrying the cross. Can you feel it? That weight of the cross on your shoulder? The knowledge that you are helping to cause this man's death? Then finally, you pass through the city gates to see that hill. Golgotha, the place of the skull. A hill on the edge of the city where stone was excavated and left a face in its surface. But it is also the site of execution and pain. Whether you call it Golgotha from the Hebrew tradition or Calvary from the Latin one, it's the same place, and it means the same thing, the place of the skull. It is here that Hebrew scripture is fulfilled. It is here where Jesus is offered that drink of sour wine. It is here where the disciples knelt and divided his clothes by casting lots. It is here that the people gathered to hear the pounding of the nails as Jesus was attached to the cross. It is here that the bandits mocked and the people ridiculed Jesus. It is here on Golgotha that Jesus is hung on the cross. But can you feel it? The weight of walking on holy ground? The feeling of your legs growing heavy as you step where Jesus walked? The pain in your shoulder where that cross rested? Can you feel it? It is never easy to take these hard walks, but that is what Jesus did for us. He stumbled through the streets. He heard the voices of doubt and questions. He asked the why me questions like we all ask. Yet at the end of our reading, did you hear the mocking of the people? As they spoke, he saved us. He saved others. He is the King of Israel. He trusts God. It is my hope that as we walk the holy ground placed before us in our lives, when we accompany others down those painful roads to diagnosis or devastating news, as we help each other deal with the challenges of life, we too may find the strength in our faith to know that Jesus has already walked before us, and he is always walking with us, knowing the weight of those steps and accompanying us into our own holy places, strengthening us with his faith and trust in God. Because even as we leave Jesus on the cross, we know this story is not over. The place of the skull, it's not the end. And to that we can say, thanks be to God.